Okay, let's learn about cat-rigged characters. Start by opening up a brand new Max, and then, before you do anything else, let's go ahead and save it. So go to File, and then go to Save As. You should already be in your Scenes folder in your student drive, but if not, go ahead and navigate there. And I want you to save it as your last name, your first name, Project 4A, capital C-A-T, and character. Capital C-A-T because it's not cat as in kitty cat, but it's cat as in Character Animation Toolkit. So that's the system that we're using, and it's the newest system, it's the best system. There are other systems like the Biped that you might have discovered on your own, but this is the one that we're using. Anyway, so there you go, so save. That's the easiest thing to do right off the bat. Now that we have that saved, let's go ahead and let's set up our viewports. So taking them all from wireframe and change them to default shading. You probably also want to change them all to display selected with edge faces. And you might want to check the units. So go to Customize, Unit Setup, and make sure that you're on US standard feet with decimal inches. That only took a few seconds, but it's well worth the time. Okay, let's bring in a cat character. So go to the T drive, and in Art, and in the class Characters, go ahead and select any of the characters that you like. So just like before with the models, don't select the pictures, but the Max file. Merge file, and it might take a few moments to come in because they are very complicated. Okay, just for comparison's sake, I'm going to bring in my blocky character. You don't have to do this. So here's my blocky character. I'm dragging it in. Once again, you don't have to do this. I just want to show you a little bit of the difference between the cat rigs and the blocky characters that we made. So the first thing that you're going to notice is a difference in size. So which one is correct? Well, actually, the cat character is more the correct size. And we can show this by going over here to our command panel. I could make a box. And I'll go in my front viewport. And we can see that my box, I made it about 5.5 feet tall. And that's about the size of the character. The blocky character is actually kind of giant. Okay, making a block, that's just sort of an easy little cheat that I do for measuring things. Okay, comparing and contrasting. The first thing that you want to know is that the blocky character is scalable, whereas this cat-rigged character is not. What do I mean by that? Well, if I go to the blocky pelvis and go to the scale tool, I can make him bigger or smaller. If I were to go to this cat character's pelvis, and you can see it right here, there's the blocky pelvis, and there's the princess's pelvis, that will not scale in the same way. It won't change the model in the same way. It wouldn't do it even if the whole skeleton was selected. It wouldn't do it if the outer shell was selected. It still wouldn't work in the same way. So that's one difference right there. But speaking of the pelvis, you'll notice that on the blocky character that I've dropped the gizmo down to the floor. That makes it really easy to move the character around and to place it. The cat-rigged character, on the other hand, has this platform right here. So we can use that in the same way to just move the character around and to place it on things. In addition to having this base right here, it also has these two platforms. These are to move the feet. I'll talk about more about them in just a little bit, but here's the one platform. Here's the other platform right here. Okay. The blocky character is just a string of objects, one enchained with another. So they move in what's called forward kinesthetics. Using the rotate tool, if I were to rotate the body, you'll see that everything in that chain goes along with it. So the body moves the shoulders, shoulders move the arms, the upper arm moves the lower arm, etc. She works in somewhat a similar way, but she's not made of just simple objects. Her shell, the outer part that you'll see, that is actually just an object the same way that his body is, but it's more complex, whereas his is just this capsule shape. She's obviously more complex in her build, but also if you look over here in the command panel, you'll see that she's got a couple of modifiers. Now it says editable poly. That's the same thing as an edit mesh, it just has different controls, but it's the same thing as Blocky's body. But on top of that, it's got a morpher. Now this morpher has to do with giving her facial expressions, etc. And so we'll talk more about that later. And then finally it has the skin modifier. The skin is what connects this outer shell to these bones. And so if you were to look at the whole chain of things that she's got going on here and all the various bones listed, you would also find all those down here in this modifier. And how it works is that certain bones will affect certain vertices more or less. So as I move the chest here, it's moving the vertices that make up that body near that block more, whereas down at the waist, it affects those vertices less, and you can see down at the legs, it's not moving those at all. Okay, let's see, anything else that you need to know about Blocky versus her? Not so much. Well, except that when you animate the Blocky, it's very straightforward. You can see that the keyframes that I've set up in the timeline. Animating her is different. We'll get to that in a little bit, probably even in the next tutorial, not in this one, because we'll have too much to cover just in moving her around for this one. That being said, I think we're done with the Blocky. Once again, you didn't need to bring that in. I just wanted to compare and contrast. So now to her. Like I said, she is actually composed both of a skeleton, that's this part right here, you can see the pelvis and it has a long chain of all the different things. She's also has the envelope, in other words, this high resolution object that has these morphers on it. She's got the platform that you can move around the whole rig with, and she's got these platforms down here they can use for moving her feet.